Over 85% of people experiencing a sudden life crisis believe they are being punished for a hidden mistake. Are you truly falling apart, or are you just being uncomfortably rearranged? What if the sudden chaos wrecking your plans is not a cosmic penalty, but a deliberate surgical intervention? Most of us confuse a comfortable, predictable life with spiritual security. We build these fragile little glass houses out of steady paychecks and convenient friendships, calling it peace. But I learned the hard way that this kind of peace is just a beautifully decorated cage. Back in the winter of 2021, my entire professional and financial world dissolved in less than 48 hours. I was sitting in my dark office, staring at a blank computer screen that represented a collapsed business, wondering how a good person could end up so completely broken. In those quiet, terrifying hours, a bitter thought kept echoing in my mind. The universe has abandoned me, and every prayer I ever said was just a self-medicated lie. You might be sitting in that exact dark room right now, looking at your own ruins and asking the same desperate questions. But looking back from where I stand today, I realize that when everything feels like it is moving backward, you are actually being dragged into the deepest phase of your preparation. This is not a passive exam designed by a distant judge to see if you pass or fail. This is a profound, active process of spiritual deconstruction. When the structures you built to protect yourself suddenly vanish, your immediate instinct is to panic. You lose a long-term revenue source, a critical professional partnership dissolves, or a person you leaned on completely disappears from your life. True spiritual deconstruction does not just nudge you out of your comfort zone, it systematically demolishes it. Most people view this sudden loss as a sign of divine rejection or failure. But I see it as a mandatory evacuation from a foundation that was already rotting beneath your feet. We naturally turn temporary blessings into permanent crutches, depending on them more than the source that provided them. I remember clearly when my closest ally, the person who swore to stand by my ventures through thick and thin, cut all ties the moment the financial storm hit. They blocked my number and vanished when I needed their counsel the most, leaving me completely exposed. In that initial wave of bitterness, I blamed the universe for allowing such a cruel betrayal to happen to me. But if that person had stayed, I would have kept relying on their flawed advice instead of developing my own resilience. The stripping of your external refuges is not a punishment designed to leave you naked in the wilderness. It is the removal of false scaffolding so you can finally discover the unbreakable core hidden deep inside you. The most terrifying part of this transformation is not the loud destruction, but the heavy, unyielding silence that follows. You pray with tears in your eyes. You scream into the void for a sign, but you receive absolutely nothing back. People often mistake this cosmic silence for a sign of total abandonment. But in advanced acoustic psychology, there is a concept known as the anechoic chamber, a room so perfectly quiet that it absorbs over 99% of all outside noise. When you first enter that room, the silence is deafening and highly disorienting. But after a few minutes, you begin to hear things you never noticed before. The rhythm of your own heartbeat, the rush of blood through your veins, and the sound of your own breathing. The silence of the universe functions exactly like that chamber. I remember those long, agonizing nights in my empty office when no miracles occurred and no answers arrived. I felt like I was crying out to a brick wall that did not care about my survival. I honestly believed my faith was a childish illusion, but that suffocating quiet was actually a boundary line, forcing my loud, screaming ego to finally run out of breath. When the external noise stops, you are finally forced to listen to the whispers of truth you have ignored for a decade. The silence is not an absence of presence. It is the ultimate test of your internal alignment. True crisis does not create your internal flaws. It simply illuminates them with terrifying clarity. When a sudden storm hits, it strips away your polite public persona and forces you to look directly into a raw, unfiltered mirror. We love to dress up our deepest insecurities as benign personality traits or necessary coping mechanisms. But this critical phase of deconstruction functions exactly like a high-pressure metallurgical refining process. Raw gold does not look pure or beautiful when it is first mined from the dark earth. It must be thrown into an intense, scorching furnace to force all the hidden impurities to rise to the very surface. Before my own sudden collapse in 2021, I operated as an absolute control freak in every single department of my life. I disguised my deep-seated anxiety as mere attention to detail, constantly judging others while inflating my own ego. I spent months playing the innocent victim of terrible market conditions and bad luck, blaming everyone but myself. But the sheer weight of that test eventually broke through my defensive lies, forcing me to admit a painful truth. I was not a victim of a cruel universe. I was the primary architect of my own misery, blinded by my own arrogance. The psychological pain you feel right now is not destruction. It is a necessary, deep tissue spiritual surgery. True peace is never defined as the total absence of a storm, but as the discovery of an unbreakable anchor right in the middle of it. When you finally stop resisting the process of spiritual deconstruction, a structural shift occurs within your mind. You stop asking why this crisis happened to you, and you begin asking what this crisis is trying to build inside you. This is the exact moment when you transition from being a helpless victim of your circumstances to becoming the conscious architect of your new life. During the absolute darkest point of my financial ruin, sitting before a mountain of unpaid bills, an unexplainable tranquility suddenly filled my room. Logically speaking, I should have been paralyzed by fear and deep depression. Yet I felt a profound, untamed sense of freedom that I had never experienced, even during my most profitable business years. Many people watching this will probably think I am completely exaggerating or losing my mind. But anyone who has ever reached the absolute bottom and chosen to fully surrender their ego knows exactly what this supernatural peace feels like. It is the ultimate proof that you have stopped relying on temporary illusions and have finally connected with a larger, unshakable reality. You are not being destroyed by this fire. You are being purified to handle a version of success that nothing on earth can take away from you. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into spiritual resilience today. If this perspective brought clarity to your current storm, please hit the subscribe button right now to join our community and share your thoughts in the comments below.